What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and today I have a friend joining me.
Hey guys, Ghast again.
So today we're going to be talking about our favorite default kits from the launch units back when skill inheritance didn't exist, and those were the old days where we had our default units. Every unit was unique because of his skills and stat.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily like the best units in like the launch, but like these are ones that we picked up first because of luck or because of some other circumstance, and they just happen to be the ones we stuck with. And they're not perfect, but we think that these are the units that had like really solid kits that we used back in like 1.0. So we just wanted to talk about those today and tell you guys why they were our favorite.
Yeah, like we didn't have too many like top tier units at that time, like Ryoma, Hector. We obviously had those after like their banners came out, like Hero Fest and stuff, so we do not have those kinds of like insane units at that time. So some of these are like 4-star units we had at that time, right Ghast?
Yeah, like we should so we're gonna preface the video by saying like if you find your favorite character or the character you think who is the best from launch not in the list, don't be like, well, what about this? Where's this guy? Like, we get it, but these are just like our personal lists, and we do have an honorable mentions at the end of the video, which might have the character you might be thinking of, but we're just gonna list off like 5 characters each and explain why we like them so much. So my first character in my list is Narcian, and the reason why I like Narcian so much was because I think he was the first Grand Hero battle.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah, I think he was the first one. And I found that his kit was like really specific, and he also had some pretty nice skills that I think are still quite valuable today. Well, except for one, Savage Blow. But yeah, so he came with the Emerald Axe, which is of course really good against blues, and then he had Lance Breaker, so it was like that put together would make him like super stocky and super good against lance units. And then he had Savage Blow, which, you know, while not the best, I feel like it was probably more relevant at the time. And also, like I said in the other video, Savage Blow is like one of my personal favorite skills, just because it's just cool. It's just a cool thing. So Narcian just kind of, I feel like his kit is like really relevant. It works well with who he is, as like unit wise and stat wise. It all kind of makes sense and goes together quite well. And he's a flyer, like he's a wyvern, he's cool Grand Hero battle guy. So that's who was my first, and I always loved using him, and even to this day he's in my my Almond Celica team. He's actually in, I don't want to spoil, maybe he didn't release it yet, but he's also in, he may or may not be in yours, Phoenix, but I really enjoy using Narcian, and I really did enjoy using Narcian when it came out.
Yeah, you're definitely right about Savage Blow, because at that time we didn't really have stuff like Tempest Trial, Chain Challenges, where units had like insane HP. Like nowadays we have 70 HP, like as if it's nothing.
Yeah.
So back then, like Savage Blow definitely helped a lot. And Narcian's Grand Hero battle came like so early that not a lot of people had like units ready at level 40. So a lot of people definitely struggled a lot when this Grand Hero battle came out.
Yeah, I don't even think I didn't even beat hard. I think I just beat normal or something. Yeah, that was it.
Even I didn't beat hard because I didn't have the units who were required for that. And like his Grand Hero battle was actually the first map we had exposure to like actual tough maps, and we saw what was to come.
Yeah.
Alright, so I have on my 5th spot Abel. So if you guys remember my arena videos, I used to use Abel a lot, and I was actually lucky enough to get a 4-star plus attack Abel. And at that time, red units were really dominant in the metagame. So he had Swordbreaker and he had Brave Lance, so he could quad attack sword units and just kill them in the player phase. So that's why I used him a lot as a 4-star unit at that time. And cavalry movement was also pretty good at time. Like mobility always has been really good, but back then we didn't really have Horse Emblem teams or stuff like that. So cavalry movement was definitely something which only few units had, and there were not too many like cavalry units. Reinhardt wasn't there, we didn't have Brave Lane, stuff like that. So Abel was definitely one of my favorite units to use, and he was basically my go-to red check. So I really enjoyed using Abel. And luckily enough, I got another 5-star plus attack Abel after a while when Skill Inheritance I think came out. So Abel has a special place in my heart because I've been using him since the launch.
I actually never have pulled an Abel yet. But speaking of Christmas units, the next one on my list is, as some of you may have guessed, Stahl. I love using Stahl. I try to use Stahl for everything. I don't know what specific it is about it. Like Obstruct, even for me, Obstruct has only been useful like conceptually because I never actually got to play Legion's Grand Hero Battle, but I've heard that like he's really good to stop Legion with the swarms of Legions that come because he has Obstruct and he's really stocky and there's forts. And he's a sword with Ruby Sword guy. So he has +3 defense, which adds on to his tankiness. So he's legitimately just like the Great Wall of Stahl against greens. And even like his res isn't awful. So he can at least like tank 1 hit from green magic. I'm even using him for like the Almond Celica one. I've used him for the Ninian and Hawkeye. I've used him for Arvis, I think. Maybe I didn't use him for Arvis. I don't remember. But I've used him frequently, and I like his character. I like his kit. I think he has a good place in the game. And for free to play, like he came out like in that cycling free to play unit, fight this guy, get the unit. So yeah, he's just really reliable for me, and I'm always able to find a place to use him, and that's really great. And so yeah, that's basically it. Stahl's the man.
Yeah, I feel like Stahl has definitely aged very well with the like how the game has progressed, because still like he's pretty useful in in-game modes, as you said.
Like before Stahl, there was like, or after, like, who's the next? I mean, I guess like Seth is probably just like a better version of Stahl because he does the same things except he has like fortress defense and stuff. But Seth was way out, and then like Xander, I guess, was kind of a tanky red, but Xander's only good if he's 5-star. Okay, like I'm just gonna say that right now. Xander's only good if he's 5-star because then he has his stupid sword. Otherwise, he just has a dumb steel sword. So yeah, Stahl takes the cake for that.
Yeah, definitely. And on my number 4 spot, I have got Katria. So I used her as a 4-star unit as well. I didn't really have too many 5-star units back then. So Katria was one of the 4-star units I pulled. And I just really liked her default kit because, like, still it is a pretty good duelist set with armored blow and seal attack. And she was just a very tanky unit, and not a lot of units had specials at that time before skill inheritance. So having Killer Lance Luna was really good. And Luna was one of the better specials, like which default units had. So Killer Lance Luna was really good because it was a 2-turn cooldown special. And Katria was pretty nice, and she could use armored blow, not take too much damage herself. And I remember that she was like bulky enough to tank hits from Takumi at that time, so she was one of the flyers which you could use on your team at that time when Takumi was in his prime. So you didn't really like have to fear Takumi too much because Katria could always just live at least 1 hit. I've
actually never used Katria that often. I think she was one of those units who like the high common unit, but I just never picked her up. Just never got her.
Yeah, she was actually a free-to-play unit actually at some point, given as a reward.
I guess I never found her. So on my number 3, I have Setsuna. I think Setsuna has one of the more like niche kits. She has Assassin's Bow, which is like a permanent shuriken breaker, which is awesome. There's no HP threshold with that, and she had bow breaker too. So she had good melee gray checks. So she had bow breaker, which was not even prereq, so she can get bow breaker 3, a permanent shuriken breaker, and she had reciprocal aid in case she couldn't survive hits, but she could at least give HP. I think she has one of the more like I still think she has one of the most unique kits because there is no other Assassin's Bow, nor is there any other bow breaker in the game that I can recall. There might be other ones at this point, but I don't remember if there is or not.
No, there aren't actually.
Yeah, there still aren't, and she has a prereq breaker, which I think is just awesome. So at 4 stars, she could just do damage. And like I said before, there's really no other character like her for archers. She's helped me out in some squad assaults where she just had to just take a shuriken to the face and just double down on that. And the good thing about Assassin's Bow being a permanent breaker is that she's so squishy that if she gets hit once, she probably can't utilize the bow breaker again, but she can always utilize the shuriken breaker. So she still has that going for her. The only drawback that I found with her was that she was just so squishy. Like, that's the biggest issue I had. But she was stupid fast. She had cool breakers, and she was a pocket healer if you needed her. She's always really neat to me. A nifty character for sure.
Yeah, she always like back in those days, she used to be like a soft Takumi check because she could tank hits in the enemy phase from Takumi and then double him, and in the same enemy phase with bow breaker, like even if he got like threatened speed on her, she would still double and she could just finish him off in the player phase. So she was definitely cool. Then I've got Kagero. I used her as a 4-star, and as I've said in many of my videos, Kagero is actually one of my favorite units to use in Fire Emblem Heroes, even to this day. And she was really good when Skeletons was not around, because Poison Dagger was really good at that time, because there were a lot of infantry units, and Horse Emblem, like emblem teams, were not really a thing at that time because of no Skeletons. So she was definitely in her prime back then, and she had an easier time killing things because, like I said, there was no skeletons, so no units had fury or stuff like that, like nothing to inflate their bulk. And warding blow, from what I can remember, was decent for killing mages, at least in the in-game story where we have Veronica and stuff like that in chapter 10. So Kagero was definitely pretty useful, helped me a lot in story mode, and even in arena back in those days. She was definitely one of my favorite units to use at that time.
I hate poison dagger, but I would also love it if I had it.
Yeah, it's just one of the things which you do not like facing as an infantry unit, but you would love to have that.
Yeah. So my next pick is Olivia. This was kind of predictable, but she was a launch unit. I think she had pretty decent stats all around. She had the silver sword, so that was 11 might, and she had hone attack. So, you know, put her next to a unit, boost up their attack by 4, and then of course she was dancing. So I think like since she was a 4-star unit, hone attack was a prereq, and Azura was impossible to find. And that being said, I have 2, and one of them was like the second I got the game. But like, she's still a super rare character to get. So having Olivia is just still useful to this day. She's F2P. A lot of people use her for F2P teams in special maps.
Yeah,
and she's always nice. She's a nice unit to have around. I mean, you can't go wrong with the dancer, and she's still the only red dancer to this day. So I think she has good enough stats to like double as an attacker, just to do like some solid chip damage if you don't want her to dance for you, which has been the case in some situations for me. Like she had to tank a hit or something. Like she has decent bulk and she has decent HP. She's just like. She doesn't have like any like glaring weaknesses, I don't think, unlike Azura, who like she's like really good against blues, or really good against reds, but will just get fucking trashed by axes. But yeah, I think Olivia is just solid all around, and she's a good unit. She's free to play.
Yeah, Olivia was definitely one of the better units we had during launch because, like Azura, like you said, was really hard to get, but still you got 2 of those, man. Come on, save some Azuras for the rest of us. And she could actually give Azura a run for her money because Azura didn't have Hone attack, so Olivia had Hone attack, so she was a better support dancer at that time.
Yeah.
From what I can recall, and she was just easy to get. She's still like a staple on a lot of the Grand Hero Battle and Bound Hero Battle teams. And then on the number 2 spot, this is also predictable. I had Takumi. He was one of the first 5-star units I pulled at that time when he had his like banner. And only now, I think, after Hero Fest, he has got some more banners in like the Voting Gauntlet banner and Threat and Speed banner. Takumi was one of the 5-stars I pulled, and he could just carry my team because of his close counter, and he could just abuse Threat and Speed so much in those days, and he was definitely one of my favorite units to use because I didn't have too many 5-star units, and Takumi was like the best one I had. So I used to use him a lot, and I remember like I used to get so many comments from people like, stop using Takumi. You always use Takumi. Like, people were bored that I use so much Takumi in my videos. So after that, I kind of stopped using him. But yeah, he was definitely one of my favorite units at that time.
Yeah, I got Takumi like super early. Probably like my first or second roll where I got a 2 Marths and a Takumi, and I was like, is this like rigged? Like, why am I getting so many? And everyone like flipped their shit. So it was, pardon my French, by the way. So yeah, I had him early on too. I think he has, I mean, at the time, like, close counter is an amazing skill. I'd say it still is.
Yeah,
and
just not on.
And he had threatens,
like,
yeah, and he had threatened speed too, which was also quite useful. And he had a special, which actually, you know, came in handy.
Yeah, vengeance.
And then, you know, then inheritance came along, and then we had, I threw on Vantage on him, and that was pretty helpful. He was always really good. His default kit was, I think, really solid at the time. He was people were like protesting Takumi's existence, and they were like, "Oh my God, well, he's so broken. What are you gonna do, Intelligence?"
Yeah,
come on.
There used to be so many memes. Like, I had like 6 wins in my arena streak, and then I got Takumi on my 7th one, like how people do right now with Heart Emblem team. Like, now I think it's much more worse, because like Takumi used to be like 5-star exclusive, still he is, and Reinhardt is 4-star, pretty easy to get compared to Takumi.
He is easy to get. I have I think one 5-star Reinhardt and like 3 4-stars.
Yeah,
he's an easy pickup.
But like back in those days, like focus units were relatively easy to pull because we didn't have too many like new units at that time.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people had Takumi at that time.
He was the old god.
Yeah, old god. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And my 5th pick is Lissa. I think Lissa is one of the most solid healers in the game, and when she was and at launch, I would argue that she was the best healer, because she had Rehabilitate, which is hands down the best healing spell, like just easily the best. Like, it just can immediately put your super like life support guy back at full HP. And she had Imbue, which was also solid. Every stab user had Imbue, but that plus 10 healing is also just, you know, adding on to how consistently good she is at healing. And in terms of like combat staffs, I think Gravity is actually pretty useful, because the thing that I found with like staffs in general is that like whatever their gimmick is the most important, but Gravity dealt with like movement, and you could like cheese some maps and cheese some units if you could work with obstacles and have Gravity. Same thing with like the Brine Healed. So I think Gravity is one of the more practical staffs to use if you have to, but that being said, you know, you're typically going to use healers for their healing ability, but having that like pocket like gimmicky staff in Gravity is solid. And I found that Lissa had decent bulk. Like, she was in the mid-20s for like res and defense, so renewal was actually good for her. She could actually survive getting hit sometimes, which is helpful, and so she could get that HP back. And compared to like Rice and other launch healers, like Rice was the only one else with Rehabilitate. Solid stats, good kit, and she had Rehabilitate, and I still use her. She's one of the other FTP units. Just very reliable healer.
Yeah, I agree with you with how she was like one of the best, if not the best healer at that time, if you couldn't pull Elise and stuff like that. And Gravity, like you said, was pretty nice for choosing some maps, because like even in Arena, she like Gravity was pretty good, because you could Gravity a unit and then use drawback and return back to safety, and just do that over and over as long as the unit cannot retaliate back. And and back then, like, not a lot of units could retaliate back, because like skill inheritance was not around, so distant counter units were not really that common. Only Hector, Roma were the distant counter units. So yeah, she was definitely pretty useful. Yeah, Noe. Yeah, but Lissa had the bulk to take hits from Noe. So yeah, so she could definitely do some pretty nice cheesy stuff. Then for my last pick, I have got Sharena. So Sharena was a really balanced unit. She's still my favorite Asuka Trio member, and she was my first 5-star unit I upgraded. And back in those days, I think you remember, guys, how rare it was to get feathers, they were really hard to get at that time.
That was one of the worst parts of the game. It still kind of is. Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie. I still hate that aspect. They're so hard to get. Like I hate to interrupt, but like my friend recently got Heroes, and he was like asking me about it, and I was like, he asked me, he's like, so how do I get 5 stars? And I tell him, you have to promote. And he's like, okay, how do I do that? And I say, well, you need to get 20,000 feathers. And he's like, 20,000 feathers? How do I get that? I have 15. I have like 15 feathers. How do I get 20,000? I'm like, I don't know, man. You just got to do stuff.
Yeah, but still, like, they definitely improved that aspect, because nowadays we have got Voting Gauntlet, Tempest Trial, Infernal Grand Hero Battle to give us like feathers and stuff. But back in those days, like, oh my god, it was so hard to get 20,000 feathers. So I got my first 20,000 feathers, and she was the unit I upgraded, because at that time I didn't really have too many lance units, and like red units were so dominant that I always wanted more blue units, and that's why I've got 3 blue units on my list. So yeah, she was the first 5-star I upgraded, and she had pretty good speed. She was a balance unit, and she could double buff units with rally attack and fortified defense, so that was really good. And all around she was a great team player, and fortified defense was great when Takumi was a dominant force in arena. So fortified defense could mean life and death for some of the units against Takumi, so that's why Sharena was definitely one of the units which I used a lot at that time.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say she's probably the more popular and useful trio unit. And yeah, so that was both of our top 5. We have some honorable mentions here. I guess we can just hop into that list too, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so for my honorable mention, my first pick is Gunter. I like using Gunter. He was one of the first units that I stuck to when I was first playing. I like his kit. I think he's a little bit soft on the defensive side, despite his character. But he did have Armored Blow, which I guess was the point of it. So he could deal some damage and take some hits when he was on the offensive. But he also had Hone Cavalry, which was since there was no inheritance at the time, like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but Gunter was pretty useful to have.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you're right.
Because he would be one of the few units that could just and like at the time, like it still is, but like +6 attack and speed, like chill, dude, like chill. That's a massive buff. It's a massive buff. Like it just beefed out some of your other cav units, and I love that aspect, like first discovering Hones and how C's work and all those passives and stuff, and having Gunter there was a good memes, man. Decent memes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty useful. Like, we didn't have too many buffs at that time, like how we have right now with Brave Lucina, Dalthea, stuff like that. Pretty insane stuff.
Oh, he also had harsh command, which was just like,
yeah.
I think like the concept, like that skill, the name itself just sounds badass. Harsh command. Never really had a use for it though, but still, pretty solid guy all around for sure. He also had really good artwork, so that's also a thing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And back in those days, like if Takumi like threatened speed you could always just use harsh command. That was like still one of the niche things, but he could always pull it off.
Yeah.
And for my honorable mentions, I've got Nino. Nino was available as a 3-star and a 4-star unit ever since launch of the game, and I got her, and she was really good offensive unit like at that time. Like her default kit, like she had res +3 and Hone attack 2, and that's pretty much it. But Grand Blade was so nice like at that time with buffs like Hone attack and Hone speed. And like after a while we got Erica and Ephraim, so she definitely got better. But still, like at the launch, I really like Nino, and in general, like Nino was one of my favorite units from Blazing Sword. So I was really happy that she was in the game. And like after, like one of my favorite things about Heroes is that we could hear voice of like old units, like which they didn't have in their own.
Yeah, that's always a really great aspect of Heroes is seeing your favorite characters like in HD, all these beautiful artwork. And I will say Eliwood too. I do like his art. I think he has blingin' armor. Okay, I'm over his face, but Yeah, I'm gonna say Noe. I'm gonna put Noe as an honorable mention as well, because while I never had Noe, so I couldn't really say she was like my one of my top 5 because I never really had her. I've always imagined using her because like her kit just seems really fun. She has distant counter, and she's a magic distant counter, which it was
lightning breath.
Yeah, lightning breath, which was it's just awesome to me. That concept of distant counter with a dragon and whatever. She has pretty solid stats all around. Like her default max stats is she was a 4-star, but she had like 45, 34, 27, 30, and 27. So she was like, her total is 162 to 163. So like, sorry.
Christian channel.
Yeah, Christian. Oh god, I can't stop. Very solid stats, and her kit was pretty nifty as well, with defense +3 adding on to her bulk, but also threat and res, and it was a 4-star threat and res as well. And what I really like about that is I like threatens because you can position yourself well. It's like threatens to make them work is like all about how you want to position yourself to make the enemy lure into that area. But the thing with threat and res being so good is that she's a magic based unit, and she has defense +3, so she can take physical damage and she can take magical damage, because she kind of has everything going for her, and she can strike back. So I felt like she was really well rounded defensively. She was a good defensive unit, and she had distant counter, and she had rally defense as well, which is I think probably one of the more better rally assist skills.
Yeah, at that time when Takumi was around.
Yeah, you wanted someone you just wanted as much like
defense
as possible to deal with her, and so I think Noe's kit really good, and magic distant counter is just really cool. And I'm really glad I have her so I can start using her.
Yeah, so she was pretty much like one of the units at the launch which you really wanted, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I also had Noe. I actually used her as a 4-star during the launch days, but I always preferred using female Karin over her because female Karin had better speed, so I really liked using her, and her default kit was pretty nice with Dark Breath and Seal Res, and of course Hone Attack, so that was really useful. She also had Draconic Aura, and like I said, like in those days not too many units had got like offensive specials, so any extra damage you could get from a special was really good. Female Karin was definitely one of the honorable mentions I had for this list. Used her a lot during the launch days.
Yeah. And there's honestly like a bunch of units that I'm sure everyone has like an affinity for. I'm sure people have an affinity for Pala, Sakura, like Ryoma and stuff. But so yeah, how about we're kind of finished our lists and our honorable mentions, so if you guys have any favorite characters just for nostalgia's sake, or for you really found their kits useful for your playstyle, let us know, man. I'd be curious to see what your experience with the game was.
Like, I think there are a lot of people who are day one players, and like these were just units which we really enjoyed using when the game was new, fresh, and there was no Skeletons. Skeletons has definitely changed the game for better because it has added more depth and a bigger learning curve, but it was still pretty simple back in those days. I feel like it was pretty easy to get at that time. Like now, if you get into it, like you have missed some free-to-play units, you have missed some fodders, stuff like that. Like you always need some fodders if you wanna use units in arena and stuff.
Yeah, the entry level for heroes has definitely gotten higher, but
yeah, now it has definitely.
But it's still just brings back good memories using, Gunter and not really knowing what the heck you were doing, and yeah. But I mean, I guess you can say that with any game, but still, good stuff.
Yeah, but still, it was for a lot of Fire Emblem fans, it was such a good game because we had so many characters from these different games. It was like a perfect spin-off game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was great.
And you had that game on your phone, you could always play it anywhere.
Yeah, so, with the sound off, of course.
Yeah, you do not want to hear the intro.
If I had, honestly though, I wish I could just put on like the English version of the theme song on mute. I'm sorry, I hate that guy's voice. It's so annoying.
Especially in public. Oh my god.
Yeah. Fire Emblem something. I don't know. It's.
Yeah, no, it's still like I wish there was a way to like mute that. We do not want to hear that every time.
Yeah, I mean, of course, just I usually put it on silent anyway, except when I'm home, in the comfort of my own place. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it. Yeah.
Definitely make sure to check out Ghast's channel. Like I said in my previous collab, which I did with him, Support Science series is definitely one of the most premium Fire Emblem series you could find on YouTube. So definitely be sure to check out Ghast and his channel and his Support Science series. He also does pretty much the same stuff as I do on my channel with Fire Emblem Heroes and Warriors. You're actually playing with Warriors, right? Pretty far ahead.
Yeah. I'm on chapter. Currently, I'm on chapter 16. The campaign's pretty short.
Damn.
But I'm having such a. I mean, we could talk about Warriors in another video. I'd love to do that. But yeah, working on the Olivia Support Science right now. I think she is. Funny I mentioned Olivia because we talked about her today, but I think she's as a character, as like personality wise, I think she's really relatable. I think there are things that people have overlooked about her, and I'm super excited to write the script. I've had like a surprisingly tough time trying to like write the script for this particular character. So it's gonna be maybe like a week or two more, but really excited to write that video. And heroes videos coming up, and keep playing Warriors. It's all good.
Let us know in the comment section down below which were like your favorite launch units, and if you didn't start playing day one, you can still tell us the units like which you had your favorite when you didn't really get super deep into Fire Emblem Heroes. Like everyone has started somewhere, so they had their favorites when they just started the game. So let us know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.